The Galactic Wrestling Federation was more than just a tournament. It was a spectacle, a proving ground for the strongest warriors in the cosmos. And for centuries, the Viekar had ruled it without challenge. 8 feet tall, built like living tanks, their bodies were armored in thick, overlapping plates. Their fists could dent steel, and their endurance was legendary. No species had ever defeated them in hand-to-hand combat. Then came the humans. At first, the Viekar laughed. The challengers looked unimpressive, shorter, lighter, weaker. Their lack of natural armor made them seem fragile, and their bones, by comparison, were brittle. The Viekar believed this was a joke, an exhibition match to prove human inferiority. They were in for a rude awakening. The official challenge was broadcast across the galaxy. The Viekar issued it with pride, declaring that no human could stand in the ring with their greatest warriors. Across space, humans accepted without hesitation. Their representative was a man named Darius Cole. A veteran of Earth's most brutal combat sports, he stepped into the arena like he had done 1,000 times before, relaxed, loose, smiling. He didn't care about the crowd, the towering alien before him, or the commentators mocking his size. The Viekar champion, Gorvek, was a mountain of muscle and arrogance. He sneered at the human, flexing his clawed hands, confident that a single blow would shatter this fragile creature. The bell rang. Gorvek charged, arms outstretched for a crushing grab. He expected Cole to panic. Instead, the human stepped aside, pivoting smoothly, and drove a kick into the Viekar's thigh. A deep, meaty thwack echoed through the arena. Gorvek staggered. The crowd murmured in confusion. No one had ever seen a Viekar react like that to a single strike. The champion bared his teeth and lunged again, swinging a clawed fist at Cole's head. The human slipped under the blow and answered with a sharp elbow to the side of Gorvek's skull. Another dull crack rang out. The massive warrior stumbled back, blinking. He had never been dazed before. Cole smirked and raised a hand, gesturing for him to come forward. Gorvek roared and attacked again, swinging wildly, trying to grab hold of the slippery human. Cole stepped in close, wrapping an arm around the alien's thick neck. Then the nightmare began. Cole's knees fired up like pistons, slamming into Gorvek's jaw and temple. The first strike made the Viekar flinch. The second made him grunt. The third caused his knees to buckle. The crowd fell silent. The invincible warrior king of the Viekar was reeling. And Cole hadn't even broken a sweat. The commentators stammered, trying to explain what was happening. The Viekar's physiology was superior. Their muscles were denser, their bones reinforced. But they had no answer for the precision of human technique. No instinct to counter a perfectly timed strike to the jaw. Cole shoved the staggering Gorvek aside and turned to the crowd, spreading his arms as if to say, "Is this really all you've got?" That was the final insult. A second Viekar warrior leapt into the ring, roaring, unwilling to watch his champion fall alone. He went straight for a grapple, intending to overpower the human with sheer strength. Cole didn't resist. Instead, he shifted, twisted, and the Viekar's own momentum betrayed him. In the blink of an eye, Cole had the alien's arm trapped. His legs clamped down. His body arched. The armbar was flawless. For a split second, the Viekar resisted. Then Cole yanked. A sickening pop echoed through the stadium. The warrior's roar turned into a scream. His arm bent at an impossible angle. His free hand slapped the ground frantically, an instinctive tap-out. The entire arena froze. No Viekar had ever submitted. The medics rushed in, trying to stabilize the injured fighter. His arm hung limply, useless. The once proud warrior had been dismantled in seconds. Cole released his grip and rolled to his feet unfazed. Across the galaxy, thousands of alien spectators stared at their screens in shock. The fight wasn't even close. Gorvek wiped the blood from his mouth, disbelief flickering across his reptilian features. The pain in his skull pulsed with every heartbeat. He had been hit before, struck by warriors, crushed in battle, but never like this. Never with such precision, such devastating efficiency. His pride burned hotter than his injuries. With a guttural growl, He forced himself upright, shaking off the lingering daze. He had underestimated the human. That would not happen again. Cole just stood there, relaxed, bouncing on the balls of his feet. His expression was unreadable, but the slight smirk tugging at his lips sent a deep, uneasy ripple through the crowd. He was enjoying this. The second Vekar fighter was still being dragged away by the medics, his arm hanging uselessly. Cole didn't even glance at him. Gorvek's fists clenched. No more mistakes. He lunged forward, faster than before, weaving past the human's defenses. His massive arms locked around Cole's torso, lifting him off the ground. A brutal crack echoed as Gorvek tightened his grip. His species' signature move, the bone-crushing embrace that had ended hundreds of fights. The human's ribs should have snapped like twigs. Instead, Cole let out a low chuckle. Then, before Gorvek could react, the human twisted violently, slipping free with a disturbing level of flexibility. In the same instant, Cole's forehead smashed into Gorvek's face. A blinding explosion of pain detonated behind the Vakar's eyes. He barely had time to register what had happened before another headbutt crashed into his nose. The cartilage, thicker than steel, shattered. The pain was unbearable. His vision swam. He staggered backward, hands clutching his face, unable to breathe properly. The crowd wasn't cheering anymore. Cole cracked his neck and exhaled, shaking out his limbs. A few alien commentators attempted to explain away the fight, but their voices wavered with uncertainty. This wasn't a fluke. It wasn't luck. Humans fought differently. Not with brute strength, but with an unsettling disregard for pain. Gorvek tried to rally, but his body refused to obey. He was swaying, his legs struggling to keep him upright. His skull throbbed. He had never been pushed this far in combat, never been forced to endure a battle of attrition. Cole didn't wait. A spinning backfist lashed out, striking Gorvek's jaw with pinpoint accuracy. The impact whipped his head to the side. He barely remained standing. Then came the kick. A savage, piston-like strike straight to the liver. The Vakar champion, undefeated, unchallenged, collapsed to his knees, his insides twisted. His breath came in ragged gasps. His body refused to move. For the first time in his life, Gorvek truly understood fear. The silence was suffocating. The once roaring crowd now watched in stunned disbelief as Gorvek knelt, his massive frame trembling. His vision swam, his body refusing to obey his commands. The pain in his ribs radiated like molten fire, and his stomach twisted violently from the human's last strike. He had never experienced anything like this. Cole paced a slow circle around him, his footfalls light, almost mocking. The human wasn't even breathing hard. His expression was unreadable, but there was no denying the amusement in his eyes. Gorvek tried to rise. His muscles locked. His arms shook as he pushed against the mat, but his body felt sluggish, unresponsive. The effects of the human's relentless assault were setting in. The head trauma, the organ damage, it was all compounding, working against him in ways he had never trained for. He was still processing it when Cole struck again. A knee shot forward, snapping his head back. White-hot pain erupted through his skull. His senses flickered. He felt weightless for a split second before his back slammed into the mat. Stars exploded in his vision. The entire arena seemed to tilt. For the first time in his life, he was completely vulnerable. Cole stood over him, relaxed, patient. There was no rush, no desperation, just control. Total, undeniable control. The medics were already shifting nervously, recognizing the signs. The fight wasn't over, but it was only heading in one direction. Gorvek's breaths came in ragged gasps. His pride screamed at him to stand, to continue to fight. But his body refused. A realization settled in, cold and absolute. The humans had known. They had entered this fight fully aware of what they were doing. They weren't physically superior, not stronger, not tougher, not built for war like the Vakar. But they had something else. A way of fighting that turned weakness into a weapon. Gorvek clenched his fists, but they no longer had any strength left. His body was spent, drained beyond its limits. Cole crouched beside him, his voice low. "You're done." The words stung worse than the blows. A second passed. Then another. The Viekar warrior, the undefeated champion, closed his eyes and tapped the mat twice. The fight was over. The tap echoed through the stunned silence, final and absolute. Gorvek, once the undefeated champion of the Galactic Wrestling Federation, had surrendered. Not from broken bones. Not from sheer power. But from something far worse, helplessness. Cole exhaled, standing fluidly, rolling his shoulders like he had just finished a warm-up. No celebration, no unnecessary movements. Just cold efficiency. The fight had ended exactly how he knew it would. The medics rushed in immediately, their scaled hands hovering over Gorvek's battered body. Their scans revealed extensive soft tissue damage, a concussion, and an internal shock response his species had never experienced before. His nervous system had overloaded, his body shutting down in self-preservation. The Viekar warriors watching from the sidelines stood frozen, their confidence shattered. This wasn't a simple loss. This was a lesson. The commentator's voice wavered through the speakers, struggling to put words to what had just unfolded. This human had taken down their champion with nothing but technique, endurance, and a disturbing lack of self-preservation. And the worst part? He had barely broken a sweat. The galactic audience, once roaring with excitement, now whispered in uneasy tones. Their species had always assumed humans were fragile, lesser beings in the hierarchy of warriors. But this had been something else entirely. The moment Gorvek was stretchered out, another Viekar fighter stood up, fists clenched, fury burning in his gaze. He stepped toward the ring, ready to challenge the human and restore their honor. Cole simply grinned, stretching his arms. His message was clear. Try it. See what happens. The Viekar hesitated. For the first time in their history, they thought before charging into battle. And across the galaxy, fear of humanity began to spread.